Mary Anning's Curiosity, Chapter 3, Fossil Fish. In Lyme Regis, the houses, shops, churches, a gathering place called the Assembly Rooms, and the cockmoil, or prison, were built on hills so steep and cobbled streets so narrow that a coach couldn't make its way into the town or to the beach. Tourists visiting from London for the bracing sea air stepped off the coach and walked or hired a small cart to carry them down. Tourists loved to buy souvenir curios. Pa did all he could to make his fossils outshine those of the competition, namely William Locke, better known as the Curie Man or Captain Curie. Captain Curie didn't have Pa's patience or respect for the fossils found in the cliffs. He dug them up with a spade, often damaging precious finds. He also didn't like to wait for tourists to walk down the hill into Lyme Regis. He'd meet the coach at Carmouth, 5 miles east of town, and tell to the passengers getting off the coach to stretch their legs. This didn't seem right to Mary, but that was Captain Curie's way. Saturday was market day. Pa pushed a table through his workshop window and Joe placed it on the pavement. Then he, Mary, and Molly laid out all the curiosities that had been prepared that week. Pa had found a way to cut an ammonite in half using sand and water. This made the ammo's inner chambers visible. Pa's ammos shone like jewels. Tourists crowded around the Anning table to buy these special curiosities. Pa's carpenter skills could also be seen in the wooden boxes he made to hold small curios. These were beautifully crafted with designs carved on the lid. Not only had Pa taught Mary how to hunt for fossils and how to prepare them, but he'd also taught her how to make the boxes. Ma might have hated that grubby business, but she hated not having the rent money even more. Often, fossil sales meant the difference between beef stew for supper or plain old oatmeal. Mary loved market days. She loved the hustle and bustle and meeting all her neighbors. She loved the bartering and bantering. You could buy almost anything: vegetables, boots and shoes, breads and biscuits, rag rugs, pottery, chairs, fresh meat and fresher fish. There was stuff to sell and stories to tell, from sun up to sundown. Mary was gulping down her breakfast. "Don't gobble yourself into a bellyache," warned Ma. "I've got to help set up," mumbled Mary with her mouth full. Ma sighed. If only Mary were this eager to help with the household chores. Clump, clump, clump. Pa came stomping up the cellar steps, carrying a crate. Inside were the curiosities ready to sell. There was also sea shells Mary had found. Pa called them bivalves. "Kind of like ancient clams," he said. There was a batch of new ammonites that Joe had found. He was good at finding ammos. Mary was good at finding shells. Mary brought her bowl to the sink. "Meet you outside, Ma," she said, rushing out the door. It was Mary's job to sort the curiosities and make an eye-catching display. She began by picking out the devil's toenails, placing larger ones at the bottom of a rush basket, which Ma had made from the leaves of water plants, and smaller ones at the top. People thought these fossils, with their thick, bony growth, looked like toenails, but not human ones. They were keen to have them because they believed they cured painful joints. Mary lined the shells in a row. Perhaps she was best at finding shells, be they large or small, because she loved them so. She loved that sometimes shells smelled like the salty sea. She loved tracing the rough lines of the outer shell and the water-smooth insides. It set her imagination wondering about the creature that had once lived inside. What had it looked like? When did it live? And how? People loved ammonites and could always spare a penny for even the smallest. They were thought to be good luck charms and to ward off snakes. Once England had been overrun with snakes, so the legend went, until St. Hilda turned all the snakes into stone. Many people believed the legend and thought that ammonites were really these snakes, but Pa didn't. He was a man of science, not a believer of fanciful tales. For example, the legend didn't explain why these fossilized snakes were never found with their heads attached. Captain Currie would often carve a head onto an ammo to fit the legend, but that was wrong, according to Pa. "They're not snakes," he'd say over and over. "They're something far more mysterious." Ma came outside, her face clouded with care. It was month's end and the rent was due. "Do we have the rent money, Richard?" she asked, though she knew what the answer would be. "Still short a shilling or 3, Pa replied cheerfully. He never let money worry him. "Comes and goes like water, it does," he was fond of saying. "Don't fret, Molly, the coins will come." "But when? Surely you can't think you'll sell 3 shillings worth of old stones today. I swear, some days I think we're 2 steps short of the workhouse." Just then, a woman dressed in a pleated plaid skirt with a bonnet to match stopped at the table. "What a lovely display," she said, smiling. "Do you ever find petrified fish?" "I've never seen any, ma'am," replied Joe straight off. The woman picked up an ammonite. These can be found everywhere on the beach. It's a fish I am most interested in. Mary, ever curious, asked, "Why is that, ma'am?" Before the woman could answer, Pa said, "If it's fossil fish you want, it's fossil fish you'll have." Mary's a dab hand at finding seashells. I'm sure her eye can spot a fish fossil in the twitch of a cat's whisker. Mary should introduce herself first, chided her mother. Molly could tell this woman was educated and had money, and it didn't do to show yourself up with poor manners because you had neither. "My name's Mary Anning," replied Mary, with a slight bend of the knee, "and this here's my brother Joe." "Pleased to meet you both," said the woman. "I'm Elizabeth Philpott, and to answer your question, Mary, I collect fossil fish for their rare and delicate beauty. I've made a study of them." "I would love to see your collection one day," said Mary eagerly. "If I may," she added politely. "Perhaps one day you shall," replied Miss Philpott. "I live up the hill in Morley Cottage with my two sisters. I'd be happy to show you my collection." Pa spoke. "I'm Richard Anning, and this is my wife, Molly. How may we help you, aside from finding the fossil fish, mind? I was hoping you could build me a display case to hold my fish." "What," said Miss Philpott. "My collection has outgrown the cases I have, and my sisters aren't happy unless my fish are under glass. They make the floors so sandy, you see." Miss Philpott took 3 coins from her cloth bag. "Would this be enough for a down payment?" "3 shillings," said Pa with a smile and a wink at Ma. "Why, yes, I do believe that's exactly right."